this is Rajaraj. Today for class 6th, I am going to teach what, where, how and when. Children, if I ask you what has happened yesterday, you would listen to the radio, watch the television or read the newspaper and you can say. Right? If I ask you what has happened last year, you ask somebody who remembers it and get the information. Suppose if I ask you what has happened long ago, how can you get the information? It is very difficult to get the information what has happened some 100 years ago or 1000 years ago. Isn't it, children? So let us find out how we can find the past. There are several things which we can find out about the past. In the ancient period of time, what kind of clothes they wear, what kind of food they ate, what kind of houses they have lived in, or what kind of stories they might have heard at a time, or what kind of games they have played. Right, children? So can you locate the river Narmada on the map? People have lived along the bank for several hundreds or thousands of years. The earliest people who lived here were skilled gatherers. They used to go around the forest in search of fruits, roots, or they used to hunt the animals and gather the food. That is why they are called hunters and gatherers. Right, children? Now look at the map and look at the Solomon and Kirthiyar hills in the northwest. In some of the areas where men and women began to grow crops such as wheat and barley about 800 years ago. You can see the river Indus and its tributaries. Tributary means where the small rivers will go and join in the main river. About 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished. About 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the bank of the river Ganga and its tributaries. In the ancient time, the southern part of Ganga is called Magadha. It is a very powerful kingdom and the rulers were very strong here. This is the map of South Asia. It is also called subcontinent, where it is surrounded by water on three sides. This subcontinent is separated from rest of Asia by seas and mountains. People travel from one part of the subcontinent to the other. Even though it is very difficult, he crossed mountains, hills, deserts and seas. Men and women travel from one place in search of food and also to escape from natural disasters like floods and droughts. Some men marched in armies and conquered the land. Merchants moved from one place to another place in carrying different things and objects. And the religious teachers moved to give instructions and advices to the people. Seas, rivers form natural frontiers of the subcontinent. It is very much difficult to cross these natural frontiers, but still they crossed these frontiers and came to the subcontinent and settled here. These movements of the people enriched their traditional culture. Some people shaped new ways of carving stones, composing music, cooking food over several hundreds of years. Let us talk about the two words we often come across about our country, India and Bharat. The word India comes from the river Indus, called Sindhu in Sanskrit. Iranians and Greeks from northwest side around 2500 years ago who came to India and called Indus or Indus. And the land east of river is called India. The name Bharata was used by a group of people who lived in northwest. It was mentioned in Rigveda period of time. Rigveda was the earliest composition in Sanskrit. There are several ways to find out the past. One method is in search of books which was written long years ago. These are called manuscripts. They were written by hand and they were usually written on palm leaves or bark of the tree known as birch, which is grown in Himalayas. Over the years, many manuscripts were eaten away by insects. Some were destroyed, but many have survived and preserved in temples, monasteries. These books dealt with all kinds of subjects and religious beliefs and practices, the lives of the kings, medicines, science. Beside, there were epics, poems, plays. Many of these were written in Sanskrit. Others were written in Prakrit language used by the ordinary people and Tamil. We can also know the past through inscriptions. These writings on relatively hard surface such as stone or metal. Sometimes the kings got their orders inscribed so that people could read and obey them. There are other kinds of inscriptions as well. There were many other things that were made used in the past. Those who study these objects were called archaeologists. Archaeologist is the person who studies the remains of the buildings made of stone or bricks, paintings or sculptures. They also explore and excavate to find out the tools and weapons, pots and pans, ornaments and coins. Historians are the scholars who studies about the past. Often use the word source to refer the information found from manuscripts, inscriptions and archaeology. Once sources are found, learning about the past becomes very easy. And learning about the past becomes an adventure, as we can reconstruct bit by bit. So, historians and archaeologists are like detectives who use all these sources like clues to find out about the past. We have used the word past in plural to draw the attention to the fact that the past was different for the different groups of people. For example, if you take the lives of the herders or the farmers were different from those of the kings and queens. The lives of the merchants were different from those of the craft persons and so on. As it is true even today, people followed different practices and customs in different parts of the country. For example, if you take today, most of the people living in Andaman Islands get their own food by fishing, hunting and collecting the forest produce. By contrast, most of the people living in cities depend on for the supplies of the food. Besides, there is another kind of difference. We know a great deal about the kings and the battles they have fought because they kept the records of their victories. But we do not know about the ordinary people such as hunters, fishing flock, gatherers, farmers or herders. If somebody asks you the date, you will probably mention the day, the month, and the year, 2000 or something. These years are counted from the date generally assigned to the birth of Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity. So, 2000 means 2000 years after the birth of Christ. All the dates before the birth of Christ are counted backwards and usually have a letter BC. Right, children? Okay, thank you.